All right, we are live. Welcome back to the new look, new produced entrepreneur hour. Um, Today, my special guest is the legendary entrepreneur himself, Paco. I'll explain what's going on, but Paco wanted to start out in a specific way, so let's do it, Paco. I'll tell you, they're not on yet, but you want me to make sure that they're on?
Yeah, I want them all on.
All right, all right. So what Paco is referring to is today's the first show where we are working with the MetaBronx team. So I've been talking about MetaBronx for a long time. Everybody who knows me knows I do this thing called MetaBronx, right? So what MetaBronx has been doing over the last 3 weeks is we have been working with 100 kids, 100 participants. Let me stop calling them kids. 100 participants to get them ready for our summer program to work with us. And we have 10 different mentors, actually more now, working with each student. So my team is going to help me produce this show. And a lot of what you see in this show is going to come from their ideas. They're going to be co-producers on every show with me. Today, I told them we're going to have Paco on, and they created this title. And the title is fitting. And I think everybody is on now. Wait, let me make sure. Yep, I think everybody's on now. I'm missing the Twitter and Twitch. So can some of you guys talk to the people who are supposed to be on Twitter and Twitch to make sure they're on? And let's start the show, Paco. I think we got enough of them to start. Let's go.
Good morning, all. And this is a great occasion when we're starting the show in a very particular form, which is called not knowing. We're starting the show in not knowing. We're actually exploring the potential of the universe and the potential of just being open to whatever emerges. So we're co-creating this moment. So I'm going to start off by saying to you, with your permission, to just take a few minutes, maybe a minute and a half, to go inside yourself. This is an opportunity that you don't get during the day. To go inside yourself, because usually we're going outside ourselves. Go inside yourselves for about a minute and a half. Close your eyes if you want to. You could keep your eyes open if you want to. But go inside and think about the things that you are grateful for today. And it could be like that you have 2 arms, you have 2 legs, 2 eyes. It could be that your immediate family is healthy. Think about all the gratefulness you have. It could be a teacher that's been teaching you. So go inside for about a minute and a half and just think about those. And usually I have a bell to ring. Today I don't have my bell, but just think of a bell ringing, and then we'll ring a bell at the end. All right, so we use my hands as a bell, a minute and a half. I cut it short a little bit.
I thought it was long. I'm like, I know Paco's 1.5 minutes.
But exactly what Miguel is saying, that 1.5 minutes can seem like a long time, depending. But for the people who participated in the exercise, it's probably one of the best moments of your entire day, because the rest of the day is going to be, and your monkey mind is going. And for you participating, that's the foundational. So foundationally, what Miguel and I do is based a lot on the internal journey, because whether you succeed or not in whatever you do, however you define success, is going to be proportionately related to how much you know yourself. And I know all of you are pretty young, and you say, "Well, I know myself. I know who I am." You don't know. You don't know who you are. So keep asking that question: Who am I? Who am I? It'll be a lifelong question. And with that, Miguel, you got the flow.
All right. So if you watched my show before or you haven't, it's called the Entrepreneur Hour, because my goal is to help people understand that anyone can be an entrepreneur. And I bring on innovative entrepreneurs that I know or I don't know sometimes. And today's show is being produced by the MetaBronx Army, I'll call them right now. We'll come up with a better name later. But this morning was the first day where I get my mentor team that's going to be working with me for the next 3 weeks. And I told them what we were going to be doing today. And I said, you know what? Let's make a show at 11 o'clock. And they said, no, let's do it tomorrow. I said, no, we're going to do it today. So I brought on Paco, and I told them Paco's story. And they have questions for Paco. But we're going to start out by Paco. Tell these young people and anybody watching your history in entrepreneurship. And then they're going to want to know, what advice would you give a young person or anybody right now trying to be an entrepreneur? But start off with your story, with your history.
So I'm going to take you back for a short story. This is back to Puerto Rico. So I'm 81 and a half. I'm going to be 82 in January. Good Lord have mercy. And I'm going to make it to 140, 150. You watch. So anyway, we're talking about 74 years ago. I was 6 years old in Puerto Rico. I was going to school, and things were difficult. I don't want to tell you my crying story about not having food and stuff like that. I'll tell you that some other day. But it was very difficult. We were very poor. And I saw a kid selling stuff in school, and he was selling basically, there were these gummy bears, these gummies that came in a packet of about 4 or 5. And in the middle, they had like a little indentation. And so I saw one young fellow cut those in half, and they were like, we could buy them for, at that point, for 5 cents for the packet. But if you cut them in half, you doubled them, and then you sold them at a penny. That was my first business. I went back home to my mother. I said, Mom, I just saw somebody selling. They buy the packet for about 5 cents, but then they can make 10 cents. They double their profit. And so she said, would you like to do that? I said, sure. So she bought me a packet for 5 cents, opened them, cut them in half, and sold them for a penny. And for a long, long time, I made practically 100% profit on my business. So that's how I started. So from very early on, I knew that if you bought at X price and you sold at X price, the difference between what you bought and what you sold it for was your profit. That's not complicated. The same thing for services, the same thing for producing a show. You know, you got to do the numbers. This is how much it's going to cost me, and this is how much I can expect to sell it for or get money. And that the difference between the two is how much money I'm going to make. And then you take a look at how much money you're going to make. You say, is it worth it? Nah, I don't think so. But if it's big enough, yes, it's worth it. I'll do it. So that's the basic formula for being an entrepreneur, is having that desire to be able to either sell a product or give a service, and at the same time make a profit. So I used to say, and I still say, that doing good and doing well is not a contradiction. you can continue to change the world. You can continue to do well. You can continue to help everyone. And at the same time, there's no contradictions for you to make a lot of money. So one of the things that I tell Miguel is that you got to think about what you want to do in relationship to money. So, for instance, back many years ago, I said, I want to become a millionaire. And so I took a little sign, I put them all over my room. I just wrote down $1 million, dollar sign, one, zero, comma, 000, pound, comma, $1 million. I put signs all over. And it wasn't too long after that, maybe 2, 3 years, 4 years, that I became a millionaire. And I believe it was my manifestation as well as the fact that I worked hard. So, you know, whatever it is that you want to become in relationship to money, you got to visualize it. If you can't see it, you can't be it. If you can't see it, you cannot be it. If you cannot envision what is it you want to do, you cannot be it. So you have to envision it first. That's the first creation. The second creation is doing it. So that's pretty much it, man. That's the short end, the short version. Miguel, where are you? Hello, Miguel. You disappeared. Miguel. I think we lost Miguel. I think we lost Miguel.
I'm back. Super technical difficulties. My internet just decided to disappear. And it just turned back on. Let me see if I get Paco back on real quick. We're gonna probably scrap this show anyway, but I don't know. Let me see if I can salvage it. So Paco, I got it back on. You want to jump back on? All right, jump back on. So here's a lesson, kids. Things are gonna mess up. It's all good. Keep going, right? We decided to go live at 10:40. 20 minutes later, we were online. 20 minutes later, I'm offline. But tomorrow, what I'm gonna teach you guys is to be behind the scenes like this, so you could have kept the show going. So Paco, I know I dropped off. You told them your story. I didn't get to hear it, but I'm sure I know it. The next thing is, all right, all you guys and girl, ask a question to Paco. What as a young person that wants to be an entrepreneur, what questions can you have for Paco? Paco, like I told you before.
Can I see the person doing the questioning, or they cannot be seen?
All right, so whoever wants to be on, I'm about to put it in the chat. So now they're gonna come on screen. I know there were two participants that were willing to be on camera. So I'm telling them right now to jump on. All right, I sent them the link. Anyone who's watching that wants to get on and jump and ask Paco a question, let's do it. But so Paco, why did you start the show with a meditation? I'm not sure if you got into that enough, because I know when we do meetings, you do meditation first, and I'm still not good at it at all. But why do you start meetings with meditation?
The reason, there's a lot of reasons for it, but one of the main reasons is that in our days and the days to come, particularly for these young people, the competing demands on our time to be doing is going to be huge. Number one. Number two, it's going to come at an accelerated change. As we both know, my whole life has been about linear thinking, linear doing. Now I'm living in an era where it's exponential thinking. So for those of you who don't know the difference, linear thinking is going to take 30 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 27, 28, 29, 30. You take linear steps. You take the same 30 steps, but you do them exponentially. And it's 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. And by the time you get to your 30th step, you've gone around the earth 2 times. And that's the difference between linear thinking and exponential thinking. And so meditation is an opportunity to really stop the clock. It's the only thing you got control over. You know, you got control over yourself. She said, wait. Exponential thinking, linear thinking, you know what? I'm going to stop right now. And I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to go inside and I'm going to feel my true nature, my true essence, which is quietness and solitude. And I'm going to spend 1 minute with myself, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I spend at least 20 to 30 minutes every single day in the mornings with myself. And then at night and in between, I do a lot of meditation. So the reason is to center yourself, to be centered about who you are, what you are, so you begin to define yourself in a very different way, number one. Number two, meditation gives you a private victory.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? What does that mean? That you give something to yourself. You yourself give you something to yourself. And it is my opinion that when you do that, you prepare yourself for the onslaught of things that are going to be hitting you. You know, your mother, don't do that. What did you do today? You didn't do your homework. Clean your room. You know, whatever it is that coming at you negatively, or whatever is coming at you positive. You're terrific. You're great. You're wonderful. All of those things come at you with the positive, negative. And if you center yourself from the very beginning, early in your day, it's almost like going to the gym. It's a mental gymnasium that you're going to. So that's a reason.
All right. So we got Kevin here, one of our MetaBronxers. And Kevin, do you have any questions for Paco? Kevin was one. Actually, was it you, Kevin, that came up with the title for today's show? Was it you?
I don't remember. I think it might have been one of my. I'm not going to take credit. It's not mine. You know?
right. So
I'm not going to take credit. It's not mine. Yeah.
So Kevin, tell Paco about yourself. What's your interest and your question about entrepreneurship?
Well, hi Paco. My name is Kevin. I'm a high school student. I'm going to be a senior in the fall. I go to Riverdale Country School.
What's your last name? Kevin, what's your last name?
Huh? Pepin. Kevin Pepin. Yeah. So I'm Puerto Rican.
You're from Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
Your dad is Puerto Rican?
My dad was born in Puerto Rico. He came over when he was like 14. And my mom was the first person in her family to be born in New York. Her entire family was also from Puerto Rico as well.
And you spell your name P-E-P-I-N?
Yep.
Pepin, from what? Do you know what pueblo your people are from?
Naranjito is where my
Naranjito.
parents grew up. Yeah.
Naranjito, that's in the mountains. I love that. Yeah, that's
in El Campo.
Mountain town. Yeah.
So yeah.
So go ahead with your story, man.
So yeah, I live in Soundview, in the Bronx. I used to go to public school, PS69. I went to a middle school called George Jackson. It's in the Lower East Side, and that school helped me go to Riverdale, which is where I go now, Riverdale Country School. It's a private school off at 242nd. It's like way up in the Bronx, up the 1 train. And I guess I'm here today with Miguel on his media team for MetaBronx, and I'm really happy and excited to be here. And my question for you is, when you came from Puerto Rico, what was like your first step? Like, what do you think was like your first move towards becoming an entrepreneur?
You kind of I think you heard my story before. That early on in my life, I started selling gummy bears, which I cut in half for a penny a piece, and I bought them for 5 cents, and then I sold them for 10 cents. So that was my first experience, and I thought that was so cool to be able to buy something for X and then sell it for double. So that was my first experience as an entrepreneur. But I think the second experience as an entrepreneur was my grandmother telling me that Miguel, can you put us in the frame where I can see Kevin?
Sure.
Okay, that's a better frame. Yeah. The second experience was that my grandmother in Puerto Rico used to say to me, "Siempre juega en tu bate. Don't play in somebody else's yard. Always play in your yard." And I thought that was like sort of a control mechanism for my grandmother. But what she was telling me was, when you're playing in your home court, you always have an advantage. That was her whole issue.
Yeah.
And so when I graduated from college in 1964, that's before your parents were born.
This is true. Yeah.
Your parents were born. I graduated from college. I graduated with a BBA, Bachelor of Business Administration, with a major in finance. And I wanted to go to Wall Street, and I wanted to work for banks. And I did start working for a bank. But I soon realized that wasn't where I was going to be happy. I wasn't happy working for other people. I wasn't happy people telling me what to do. I could follow instructions because I was always kind of an obedient kid. And I was good in school, but I didn't feel good people bossing me around, or at least what I thought it was being bossed around. So in 1968, 4 years after I graduated, November 4th, 1968, I opened up my first business. And that was due to a lot to that first little business. And then my grandmother saying, playing in your own courtyard. I wanted to be my own boss, and I wanted to take credit for my successes, and I
Yep.
wanted to take credit for my failures. I wanted to take credit for everything. And so, I realized over the years, though, that I'll share this with you, that not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur. Because being an entrepreneur, you have to be very comfortable living in not knowing.
Yep. Chaos.
Being an entrepreneur means that you are out there, and as I said, the successes and the failures are all yours. And so you got to be able to realize that, so what does that mean in reality? Well, sometimes I lost money. Sometimes I didn't have a penny. Sometimes I lost a whole business and my investment. But my mentality was, what did you learn from that? Let's do it again. And I would lose that. Let's do it again. And I kept doing it again. And then I had a successful business. And then I sold that business. And so with failures and successes, I was comfortable in that space. I have friends of mine that are much smarter than I am. I mean, they're in the level of geniuses, but they can't live in that space. They rather have a salary every week. They go to work 9 to 5. They get a paycheck. They don't have to worry about this. They don't have to worry about employees. They don't have to.
Yep.
So I kind of want people not to romanticize entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a form. For me, it's not hard, but not everybody has that personality. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I tried.
No, I appreciate it. I definitely got to understand a little bit more about, because I feel like I agree with you. A lot of people, especially on social media, kind of romanticize the idea of being an entrepreneur, and they make it seem really easy, right? But there's no set of steps, right, to really become an entrepreneur. It's really vague, but that just means that anybody can do it.
The one thing that I do tell you is this, that not that I knew it then, but I knew it soon after that. And that was that my going to college and graduating with a Bachelor of Business Administration and knowing about accounting, knowing about finance, and having that training. And I went to a Irish Christian Brother college. I went to Iona College in New Rochelle. They were tough. They were tough. In the business division was a tough division. That paid off over the years, that I had a background in accounting, that I could read a balance sheet, that I could read P&Ls and new profit margins, that I knew how to do my numbers. Entrepreneurs need to be a little mathematical.
Yep.
And I'm not talking about algebra or calculus. Regular 8th grade math. You really need to know that 8th grade math to be able to add and subtract, because that's how you measure. That's how you measure your success in a business. Yep. I used to manage by the numbers, and the numbers don't lie. So
numbers don't lie.
That piece is essential. The rest of it and what you said is correct. You've got your numbers. You're taking the best shots based on your numbers, but it's still vague, as you said. It's still vague because it's a lot of intuition and a lot of doing by experience, what you have experienced.
So, David, what's your question? Actually, tell David, tell Paco about yourself, David, and then ask your question. What are you interested in?
So, my name is David. I'm actually interested in learning more about coding a website, because I heard that Miguel had coded one and it caught my attention super fast. I want to learn a whole bunch of different coding stuff that I can do in the future, and just do things that's not that I never done and that I could teach maybe. I do have a question, and I'm okay. Not all entrepreneurs are the best. Not saying that you aren't, okay, but if you had some mistakes, how did you avoid it while you're an entrepreneur?
You're saying how would you avoid mistakes you made?
Yeah.
So Paco, tell them about some of the mistakes you made and how you could have avoided them.
Well, first of all, I don't think about avoiding mistakes. Not that there's anything wrong with that. You avoid mistakes. You don't want to, the old story is if you go down the street and there's a hole and you fall into the hole, you go, shit, man. You get out, you go home. You come down the same street the next day and shit, you fall in the damn hole again. You get, damn, what's wrong with me, man? What the fuck is wrong with me? The next time you go, you say, wait, there's a hole down there. And I'm gonna fall. Let me go to the next street. let me take a different route. So yeah, I will take a different route if I keep falling in the same hole, But I think of mistakes as blessings, because that's where I get my best learning. When I really screw up, I say, wow, let me see, what are the lessons here? What are the lessons that I can get from here? I used to have a price in my business. I had about 120 people working for me. And I used to, and I copied that from 3M, because 3M years ago started this. And that was that in my teams, we used to give a monthly award for the biggest screw up. So people used to share the biggest screw up. And then they among themselves, they voted, they would get a plaque or they could get a free pizza from somewhere. So, but the idea was, if you made a mistake, don't hide it, because you're going to get fired. If you get a mistake, let's talk about it. Let's share it, and let's see what the lesson is.
So everybody learns from it, right?
Yeah.
So Paco, when I first met all these young whippersnappers, I told them a lot about the mistakes I made that helped me get fired, but also learn to do better in the future, right? Any that stick out for you that you think is a good lesson for them?
I have one mistake that I made that I have very few regrets. But getting out of college, I wanted to go to Wall Street, and I must have sent out, I don't know, 200 resumes. I didn't get one answer back. I sort of had given up, because at that point, Wall Street didn't want Jews or Puerto Ricans or blacks at Wall Street. It was all totally blanquito game. So we're talking 1965, 66. I get a call, or I get a letter from some guys who were in Wall Street. So I went down and interviewed with them, and there were guys that almost looked like Kevin, like you and David. They were so young, they were really young, and they had just opened up a Wall Street firm, and they actually looked younger than I was. And I was probably now 19, 20, or whatever it was, 21. And they said, listen, we'll pay you $8,000 to come work for us. We're just starting a new thing that we just invented. It's called puts and calls. He said, no such a thing exists in Wall Street right now. He said, and I thought about it. And instead of going back to my school and asking my teachers what puts and calls were, I said no. I said no to the $8,000. And $8,000 at that point was a great freaking salary, number one, to start. But had I accepted the puts and calls, I would probably be a billionaire right now.
What is puts and calls? Can you tell us?
It's the equivalent of somebody coming to you guys 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and said, listen, I'm putting out something called Bitcoin, and you can get the Bitcoin for 50 cents, $1, you can get a Bitcoin. So 6 years ago, somebody said that to you, and you said, no, hell no. What's Bitcoin? Bitcoin is another way of going to replace currency. Bullshit. Currency. No, but I'll sell it to you. I'll tell you one Bitcoin for $1, $5, $10. What's a Bitcoin today?
$10,000. I'm actually working on a video right now because I saw Bitcoin at 30 cents. So
you bought it at 30?
I didn't buy, but I saw it at 30 cents. Messed up.
Oh man. Anyway, that's my story.
All right, so we got more questions from the audience, and more are coming. Right, MetaBronxers. Every single one of you gonna ask a question. All right, so as a child, was there anything else you wanted to be besides an entrepreneur? If you were not put in the circumstances you were put into, would it be possible that you may have been something else, Paco? What do you answer that?
The answer to that is that that's probably correct. That all of us can be many things, and we are not to just pick one thing that we're going to do in life. I love music. I love reading. I love the spiritual world. So I'm an ordained Zen Buddhist priest. I studied for 25 years under the Zen Peacemaker Order. So anybody who's interested, go to www.zenpeacemakers.org. www.zenpeacemakers.org, and that's our website. And we do all kinds of things, and you can read about them. So I could have been a Catholic priest probably. Had things been differently. I could have been an artist. I love drawing. I love sketching. Or I probably could have been a professional athlete in some form. I played baseball for about 18 years. I wasn't that good to be in the professionals, but I probably could have been in a minor league team and played and made my money. I love athletics. I love martial arts. Right now I'm studying Wing Chun, which is an ancient martial arts program that pretty much you don't move. It's all in forms. Is how do you change your opponent's mind about attacking you in an elevator? Where you don't have a lot of room to move and kick and all of that. And so I'm learning those forms, and it's fascinating. So the question is, yes, I could have been a lot of things, and I am a lot of things. And you can be a lot of things besides being an entrepreneur. I'm not, and I don't define myself as an entrepreneur, by the way. Or I don't define myself as a Zen Buddhist priest. I define myself as somebody who is trying to do good for others.
So I guess we're getting more questions. We're going to get more questions, but advice for basically what I've been telling them today. Today's been our first day together as a group. I want to figure out how to help as many young people understand this opportunity of entrepreneurship, mostly because I do believe it is going to be probably the main way they can get through this world financially, right? I've been seeing stories about this whole way of going to remote work, and they're basically saying what it's going to do is eliminate a lot of full-time positions, because now you can be a remote worker whenever they're needed instead of being a full-time person that's stuck in one place at all times. What would you tell a young person right now that may be interested in, okay, this might be my career, an entrepreneur, gig economy type of person? What would you give advice to them? Like, to me, I guess at their age, I was looking for a job. I don't know if that's ideal right now at that age. Do you?
Well, as I said before, some people will still need a job. Some people just don't have the capacity, the mindset, or the personality to live out there in an uncertain world. The world is very uncertain as it is, and some people need security. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And what I usually tell people again and again, I'll repeat it again and again and again and again, is that you have to know who you are. You have to know who you are. And finding out who you are is a very, very complex journey, particularly nowadays, because a lot of young people are suffering from loneliness, depression, and temptations to do other things. Self-harm can come from alcohol, from drugs, from a whole bunch of stuff. So young people are being challenged right now stay as much as they can in the narrow pathway to go to school, to get their degrees, to get going, whatever it is. But the question is, if you don't know yourself and you're going after the money for the money's sake, it's never gonna happen. It's like in baseball, you used to say, if you go for the fences, you're never gonna get there. You can't be swinging for the fences all the time. Get on base, hit a single, bunt your way in, crawl your way in, get to first base. So those kinds of advices are always helpful. But the trend is, in my opinion, that more and more people will want to do entrepreneur, self-governing themselves and their businesses and their lives. I think more people are going to be more comfortable in doing that during the time that I've lived. And the result is that they're going to have to experience different kinds of things. Like me saying over and over and over again, know yourself, is because that doesn't mean very much to a lot of people. What do you mean, know myself? So knowing yourself is a practice. Like I said, you got to do it every day. You have to have a meditation practice. You have to have a form. And I remember being very young, and being the way that I am, meaning that since I was young, they used to say, "Mira, tú eres desinquieto. My Lord, slow down, Jesus. Oh my God, how many questions do you have? You're driving me crazy. You've asked me 10 questions at the same time. Let me answer the first one." I was always impatient. And at 82, you could feel my energy. Imagine when I was David's and Kevin's age. I'm admiring Kevin and David sitting here. I wouldn't have been able to sit like that shit. But I've been able to manage that energy, manage it, and it worked well for my businesses and things that I did. I used to go playing golf, and if I didn't come back with a deal for my business playing golf, I was not happy. So I was playing golf, but at the same time, I was thinking, how to make it.
Yeah.
So we got more questions, Paco. First of all, one thing I want to bring up though is when I first met Paco and we started doing the meditation thing, I asked him questions like, okay, how long do you think it takes to know yourself then? We're going to do this meditation thing, but how long before I know myself? He said, Miguel, I'm 80. At that time, I think you were like 80. And you were like, I still don't know myself. And I probably won't know myself until the day I die, but I'm still going to do the work to know myself as much as possible.
Yeah,
I meditate,
right.
know myself.
Yeah, but it takes about 5 years before you get to doing a regular practice every day. It could be 10 minutes, 20 minutes. The thing about the practice is it has to have consistency. And that's what the practice teaches you, the consistency of the practice. So doing a practice every day, pretty much 10, 15 minutes a day of meditation, will take you about 5 years before you begin to really get some sense of what this is about. And in the meantime, you will have wanted to quit a million times. Because you go, this is stupid, man. I'm sitting here. This is stupid, man. And what am I doing here? I'm meditating, but I'm thinking of that girl, man. She was so cute.
All right, so the next question, Paco, is how was your journey to get where you are today like? What was the journey of becoming? You're still an entrepreneur at 82 when most people are trying to retire and just watch TV all day. What is that journey from coming out of high school, college to now? What was that like?
I would say that again, as Kevin and I were talking about before this, life is life, and life has all kinds of bumps in the road, and it trips you, it scratches you, it makes you bleed, it makes you pain, and there were a lot of happy moments in that journey. So you got to be able to realize that in the journey through life, there's going to be a lot of things that may not be seen like the best things in the world. Suffering, So the Buddha, the Buddha was asked once, "What do you teach, Buddha?" So the Buddha was alive 2,500 years ago, 500 years before Christ was even born. And he says, "I teach suffering, and I teach you how to get out of suffering. I teach suffering, and I teach you how to get out of suffering." So life is suffering. It doesn't mean that it has to be painful all the time. It means that you could find a way of not suffering as much as you would if you didn't have the consciousness of knowing where that suffering comes from. So that suffering comes from the Buddha's point of view, in getting attached. What does that mean? I know a lot of people who are millionaires, billionaires. I know a lot of people with big, $5 million, $10 million homes, with a boat, with an airplane, a beautiful wife, beautiful kids, and they're miserable. And you go, shit, what do you mean they're miserable? They're miserable. They come to me and they say, "Paco, I thought this was it, man. I got everything. I got a gorgeous wife. I got a wonderful family. I got a house. I got a plane. I got this. But I feel so terrible about who I am. It's so money doesn't get you the happiness and joy that all of us seek in life. So people who get attached to money and thinking that money is the thing that's going to bring them their happiness end up perhaps making a lot of money and getting a lot of money, but then miserable. So there has to be a balance. You can't I love making money. I love making money. But I also realize that it's not what brings me happiness. What brings me happiness is being able to get into this body, the Paco body, at 82 and a half, and being very happy of being me. Not having to. I'm a Zen Buddhist priest. I better be serious because Kevin and David. I want to impress the shit out of them. That I'm a holy man. I'm a holy man. So you got to be able to get in a place where people say, and David, you two guys from afar look like you guys could be good candidates in saying people who are comfortable inside their skin, people who are comfortable with who they are, and that's a lifelong journey. So the trajectory of my journey is trying to learn how to do that. And that didn't come easy, because there were times in my life when I walked into the room and I said, "Damn, I'm so handsome, dude, and I'm the smartest dude in this room, man. I know I'm smart." And shit like that, really delusions. So I went through those, and then you fall off that high wire where you think you're the smartest man in the room, and you realize that you're not. That there are tons of people out there smarter than you are, and that being smart is not the only thing. And having an education is not the only thing. That living life with gratitude and tremendous amount of joy, and with the end in mind that you want to help others. So if Kevin goes to a Riverdale country school, that's a privilege. That's a privileged school. For a Puerto Rican young man from the Bronx to be there is a major blessing, that he's got to figure out how to use that to benefit himself first, his family, and then how to help others. How to get more Puerto Ricans into Riverdale Country School, which is a club. It's a club.
It feels like a club sometimes. It feels like a club.
When you go there, it definitely looks great, like a club. All right, so next question. How did you build your team, Paco? You said you got to 100 employees. How did you build your team?
I think that's a great question. When I started building teams, I had already had a background in a little bit of psychotherapy, even though I was a business major. I had a realization through doing something at that point which called training groups, T groups, in which a lot of emphasis was put on how people were feeling and how people were viewing the world, the phenomenology of the world, their thoughts, their emotions, their actions. And so at first, I used to spend a lot of time in asking my team to tell their stories. Tell me your stories. Tell me where you come from. So I don't get in a conversation with a Kevin without asking where your folks come from. And all of a sudden, Puerto Rico. And I don't get into that conversation with asking, Puerto Ricans will ask the next question, which is, ¿de qué pueblo? So he'll say Naranjito. And I remember that as a little boy, I used to watch the guagua from Naranjito go through the top, and I knew it was 12 o'clock because we didn't have clocks. So when we saw the bus up there in that mountain, we said, "Oh shit, the sun is really up in the middle. Yeah, it's 12 o'clock." You know, so you begin to get that kind of bonding with your team before you get to the subject at hand, before the task. If a team really knows each other and begins to develop what I call caring for each other beyond the job, you'll get tremendous results from that team. That team will work their butt off to get results because they have now kind of bonding. They know each other. They begin to know their weaknesses. They begin to help each other. You know, it's almost like it's almost like a baseball team or a football team or any kind of team. You know, the team that wins is usually not necessarily the best team, pound for pound talented. Is the best team that kind of gels with each other.
It works best together. Yep. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
so
that's how I build teams.
The next question. All right, I know Kevin and David have been asking the most questions. I'll get back to this, but I'm going to ask other people's questions. My question for Paco is, what field of business did you take, and how did your business grow over time?
So I out of college, I went to work for a bank, and I realized soon after that wasn't for me. So November 4th, 1968, I established my first business, and not knowing what business I was going to get into, since I had been doing training, I was very much involved with the civil rights movement. So I did a lot of training in the South. When King got assassinated, that weekend, I took a plane and I went to Memphis, and I flew into Memphis under martial law to finish what he had been there for. He had been there to finish the garbage strike on Monday. And that's what I did. I went to Memphis on a Saturday, hung out in the hotel with all the big shots, and I was just a little shot because I was just a kid. And then I went at the marshal for that parade. But I did a lot of training in the South. And so the business I started was the Association of Community Trainers, INC, ACT. And what I did was my logo was a kids blocks, like kids block, and I put ACT. That was my logo. And I started a training program. I started a training program for not-for-profits and for profits. And that was my first business. After that, I continued doing training. I did what is called workforce development. So I had a company that did manpower training. That's where I had a lot of employees, and I used to train people from the South Bronx for entry-level jobs. And I trained seniors to do entry-level jobs. And after that, I went into real estate. I bought a building for $1 from the city. I renovated. I did an $8 million renovation. And ultimately, my biggest development was I was chosen as the Puerto Rican, only minority to get a lot in Battery Park. So I developed a $40 million building in Battery Park on Albany and West Street. If you go to Albany and West Street, that building right there is a building that LRF Developers, my company, developed along with the the related companies, which is now a huge company in the world. Anyway, that's how I started.
That's good. We got a few more questions. I know we're going over an hour because I had the technical difficulty, but even when you, so let me put it up. Even when you were struck down and denied opportunity, why did you keep going in entrepreneurship? What motivated you to never give up? Or was there a moment where you really did consider giving up?
Yeah, giving up, it's not part of my personality. It's never been. You know, I'm like a pit bull on a bone. If I bite, you know, I mean, I bite that bone. Nobody's gonna take that bone. And if you try to take that bone from me, I'm gonna bite. So I always had incredible determination, and yes, I was down and out, and yes, I did get depressed, and yes, I was at one point clinically depressed, and yes, I did go to therapy. I think therapy is wonderful. Meditation cannot do it all. So Western technology, which is therapy, is good if you find a good therapist. So, you know, I've been on the floor, but I never let them count me out. As soon as I hear 8, 9, I get up, no matter how. Even if I grab the referee and pull myself up. And so a lot of that came from my grandmother. My grandmother was a very spiritual, a Catholic lady who went to church every day, and she believed the spirit of the power of spirit, the power of faith, the power of belief. You know, I'm a Zen Buddhist priest, so I am not monotheistic in terms of having a God or belief. I love Jesus, but not as my personal God. But I do not take away anybody's belief, nor do I want to take anybody's belief. If they believe in Jesus, in Muhammad, whatever their belief systems are, if they're Hindus, if they follow that tradition, I bless them. I said, go do that. And some people come to me and say, you know, I want to be a Buddhist like you, teach me. I said, no, this is not the flavor of the month, dude. You know, if you're a Christian, become a good Christian. If you're a Hindu, become a good Hindu. If you're a Muslim, follow your tradition. It's very unusual for me to accept a student and they have to hang around for a while, and I have to really feel that, you know, like Miguel kept asking me, you know, and I said, oh my God, the people are local, you know. My student.
All right, we got a few questions left. How did you know what you wanted to create the business about?
The short answer to that is that most of the time I did not know, you know, that I had a nose for opportunity. You know, like the first building that I did was I was driving on 149th Street and I heard this thing say, Paco! And I'm like, who's calling me? And I looked around, I parked the car and said, Paco! And I looked up, I said, shit, the building is talking to me.
He still does that, by the way. Sometimes we drive and buildings talk to him.
What's up, dude? I said, yeah, I'm here, I'm empty, I'm full of roaches and rats. I need you to come and rehab me. I said, okay, dude, I'll see what I can do. I had that building in less than a month. I had that building. I got it from the city for $1. And I said, now what do? I have no money. And someday at a different time, somebody's going to ask me a question. How did I build an $8 million building with no money?
That might be your second
part of entrepreneurship is that
that's a good question.
I have
never have on the show again to answer that one.
I have never allowed the thought of, because what I was taught in school was in Iona was you have to have money to make money. And I changed the rules. I don't have no money, but I'm going to make money. So I don't need money to make money. And so my first building was a proof of that. I built an $8 million building and I didn't have the money. Shit, I didn't even have the experience of development at that point. Yeah. But I did. That got me going.
So another question that I think is good to end on, because I know there was a lot of good ones. Maybe we'll go back in and answer them through the chat. But the end of the last question, At what age do you plan on retiring, Paco?
Somewhere around 110, 115. The rest of my life up to 140, 160, 170, 180, I want to do other things. I want to travel to Mars. I want to take a trip to Mars and see what that's like. So
that's right. We're never retiring. I'm never retiring.
I want to buy a ticket now to be one of the first to go to Mars, you know.
So great. Is there any? So I know we're way over the hour. We had that nice technical difficulty. But any way to end this, Paco? Anyone watching, any young person that's watching, what advice would you give them right now with this pandemic? What you see in technology, what we didn't get into is Paco is more technologically advanced than most. What advice would you give a young person coming out of high school right now to get them ready for this innovation economy and to do the best they can in it?
A few things. Number one, believe in yourself and work on yourself and work on your development of yourself. That's your first investment. Second investment is that technology is going to be a key. So David talks about coding, you know, and I'm studying last night about an AI that not only develop its own algorithms, but it's also doing more algorithms so that it can continue to improve itself more and more. So it's almost taking it out of the hands of the first programmer. So the first programmer, the coder, and the algorithm created this thing. And originally we had this big IBM machine that beat everybody playing chess. You know, that machine is so old, and that technology is so old compared to what is being developed right now. Like this one machine that is going to be awesome in terms of medicine, business, banking, because it's going to continuously learn. So I would say that if you have the spirit of being a technology person, follow your dreams on that, because that's going to be key. And if you enjoy being your own boss, being in control, designing and implementing your own destiny, there's no other way to go to be a self-developer, be an innovator, be someone who wants to change the world. I think that the joy that you'll get in your lifetime for you and your future wife or partner and children is going to be immense. The only demand is that I think Kevin said this before, and I'm going to end with this: is there's no Kool-Aid in here. There's no quick fixes here. There's no shortcuts here. There are no shortcuts. You got to put in the work. You got to put in the work, and you have to put in the dedication. And that question back, you know, that said, you know, about me is that I've always been consistently stubborn about what I want to do, and I've had a lot of people try to dissuade me, change me, discriminate against me because of the way I look, because I was a Puerto Rican, and because I had a mind that was interested in many things at the same time. So when I was growing up, I was saying, you know, you're not never going to get anywhere because you're too interested in too many things. Only be interested in one thing. And I couldn't do that. So they used to say to me, you know, you're gonna be a jack of all trades and a master of none. So I grew up in a place where you have to become a master of something. And in my mind, at the age of David and Kevin, I used to say, like being a master of one, that's limiting. You're limited to one thing. Yeah. I want to be a master of a couple of things, 5 things. Yeah. Why not? And they used to tell me, no. Now, at this age, I am living now at an age where having multiple talents and skills is what's required, not being a master of one thing. So learn as much as you can from different fields. Be interested in science, biology, chemistry, spiritual practices of the world, cultures. Travel a lot. Get the hell out of the Bronx.
100%. 100%. So this was a great show. And as I teach these young entrepreneurs how to make call to actions to people so they understand what you want from them, if you're watching this still, like the video wherever you're watching, subscribe to the channel wherever you're watching, and definitely come back. We're going to do this every day at 11 o'clock. We're going to have not only David and Kevin, but others. And we're also going to interview other people like Paco and give you some advice on how to be an entrepreneur, whether you're in high school like my friends here or you're 82 like Paco. And thank you for watching. Even though we had some technical difficulties, we're going to fix that next time. We're going to have some meetings about it. But thank you, Paco, as always. And Paco will definitely be back. Thanks, guys.
David and Kevin, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And if you are still watching and you're on YouTube, definitely watch the video that it's showing you right now, because this video is made. YouTube has chosen this video for you to watch, and please subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Have a good day. Innovate every day.